I think we will still wait for another 3 minutes. I also see still people joining. So up to now, I don't see in the chat any request for French translation. I think we will have some short French translations nevertheless, but just for the ones who are new, who just joined now, if you are comfortable or more comfortable with French, please let us know in the chat, and then we can give short summaries of the English spoken. So we are very happy that Stefan Reuter can give some translation, and just to know how many people in the room would require French translation. So please just write into the chat the word français or French.
Peut-être, Stefan, you could repeat this in French.
Yes.
That people should write in the chat if they want to have a French translation.
Voilà, donc je viens de placer un message français avec un point d'interrogation dans le chat. S'il vous plaît, tout le monde qui veut bien apprécier une traduction française, veuillez bien le marquer dans le chat pour nous donner une idée qui, parmi les participants, vont profiter d'une traduction. Bien sûr, une traduction française, ça prend du temps. Donc, nous n'avons pas une possibilité de faire la traduction simultanée. Donc, s'il y a des personnes qui participent avec un sentiment de peut-être qu'on les laisse de côté si on ne traduit pas, s'il vous plaît, veuillez marquer français. Et si la majorité quand même peut suivre notre session en anglais, donc je vais réduire mon temps pour les traductions pour faciliter plus d'échanges. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. I would say we would start now. Thanks for all the participants who joined, and thank you for the interest in this session. This is a co-hosted session between the Hafencity University of Hamburg, where I am working actually. I'm Tim Fettback. We organized this together with Stefan Reuter, who is the lead in working group number 10, Operation and Maintenance and System Sustainability, or Sustainability of Services, and with Urban Water Consulting, where Ajith Edathoot is representing. And we facilitated this with the great support of PASA, the Pan-African Association for Sanitation Actors, where today Peter Khamisi is representing, but also Sandrine Naga is present, and I imagine also other participants, representatives from PASA are here. We gave this opportunity, or used this opportunity, to listen to the private sector on what is their need to provide emptying and transportation services, so fecal sludge collection services, and in particular listening to what is the challenge in reaching the currently difficult to access areas of urban areas of the towns where the business is quite limited, mainly because of higher costs and low ability to pay. We discussed this during the FSM 6 conference, but also then in 2 follow-up meetings where several of the current participants also participated. And within this meeting, we would like to share with you our findings and our first ideas, which we collected. I also would like to mention that during those other meetings, we had inputs from India, so experiences from enabling the private sector in India. So also that context was represented, and also findings from Dar es Salaam, from Charles Macquarie Dawasa, who presented his views. With this words, I would like to welcome all of you, and I'm happy that all of you made it into this room. And I would like to hand over to Ajith to give a brief introduction from his side. Welcome, Ajith.
Thank you, Tim. Just before we start, I noticed some are still in the waiting room, so Tim, please keep look at that. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. It's a great pleasure to see all of you in this session. We're discussing here one of the most important issues in the whole fecal sludge management sector. And as Tim mentioned, we've collected a few ideas, few learnings from our previous sessions through interactions and on some of our previous work. And we would like to use this opportunity to discuss with you all what we have seen, what we have experienced, what we've learned, and also ask you to give your ideas as well. So again, thanking you all for joining us. I would like to start my part of this little session with a short video about some of the work that we've been doing, which also reflects the journey of an emptier. I'm trying to share my screen. Let me just, first we'll check the technical issues first and then play the video. Just let me know if there's if the audio is coming through. If not, I can check that as well.
Meet Mr. Ali. He lives in a community where there's no sewer service, and his wastewater flows into a septic tank next to the house. Every day, his wastewater gets flushed into the septic tank where sludge is accumulated, and the partly treated water is infiltrated into the ground. But what happens once the septic tank is full and the sticky sludge is overflowing? Ali called a friend who works in the municipality. He gave her a telephone number from a company that emptied septic tanks and transports the fecal sludge to a treatment plant. Ali called this number and reached Ms. Leia, a small entrepreneur running her own company of fecal sludge emptying trucks. He told his problem, but he couldn't tell her the size of the septic tank nor where to open. When Ali explained his location, Leia wasn't happy and told him that the streets in his community are too narrow and it takes too long to get there. Ali was desperate, and Leia finally agreed to organize a smaller truck, but in 3 days. Without enough information, it was hard to estimate the difficulties and the service price. Finally, they agreed on a price, which both of them felt that they were at a loss. While Ali had to calm down his complaining neighbors, Leia and her colleague had a tough time finding the house and the way through the narrow streets. There, she realized that this is not an easy one. The septic tank was far away from the street and the sludge was difficult to pump. After 2 hours, the septic tank was empty, the truck full, and Mr. Ali happy. Leia and her colleague were sweating, but the job wasn't over yet. As per law, all emptiers have to bring the waste to the new fecal sludge treatment plant. But it's far outside of town, and they had to drive through a lot of traffic. After an hour of driving, she finally reached the treatment plant, paid the gate fee, and offloaded the sludge. By the time they were back in town, it was too late to go to a new client. Leia was wondering if she made enough money today to cover the costs. This is not just Ali and Leia's story. Globally, around 70% of the population relies on so-called on-site sanitation systems. Client coordination, emptying time, and driving distances are the key factors that increase the emptying costs. It makes safe sanitation steps, like timely emptying and safe disposal, difficult to practice. Analyzing the fecal sludge management logistics at the time of planning can help to understand and reduce these costs and establish a sanitation service at city level that leaves no one behind. Are you planning your city's FSM? Let us help you analyze your fecal sludge logistics.
Thank you. That was a short video of explaining of an introduction on how the situation or how challenging the work of emptying and transportation is. I'm sure pretty much all of you who are joining here, you have at least seen parts of these challenges in the projects and the places that you're working. And I'm sure my colleagues from BASA would also agree. Most of this is what they regularly see in their cities and the places that they work. Through our last interactions, we've been collecting different kinds of inputs from different stakeholders, and this has come from our previous meeting at the FSM 6, as well as follow-up sessions where we had a lot of open discussions. And the rest of the presentation is more like a synthesized version of what we have seen and what we've experienced, and where are the gaps and challenges in the emptying and transportation sector. Generally, I'm trying to collect these gaps and challenges in these following segments. We'll just go into detail each of these one by one. So the first and main important aspect is the support from the government, because as we all know, the emptying businesses which are currently there, mostly run by private entrepreneurs, and depend from place to place. In certain locations, they are not even recognized as a proper business. In certain areas, they're working much closer to the government as well. So this support and direct link from the government side is very weak and very diverse in certain areas. And as we all know, like the mandate of providing clean and safe sanitation services is one of the responsibilities of the government. And these entrepreneurs are actually taking care of that work as their regular business. However, there is the connection between the governance and the emptying businesses are sometimes weak and sometimes non-existent. Again, when coming from this informal sector to a formal sector, there is always this question of what would tax implications mean. So it could also be in terms of importing the infrastructure that is required to run these services, or it would also mean in those terms where we have to register as a working service. Again, the access to businesses to loans and other financial systems existing in the local areas, this is again hindered through these these gaps that are existing there. In many of the cities that we all work, there are discussions on how can tariffs be set, how can zones be identified where certain providers can serve and certain providers can focus on certain other zones. These always need to be done with joint consensus. We've seen from experiences in Kampala, we've seen experiences from other parts of the world as well, where zoning or setting of tariff structures have not always given a proper or positive impact onto how these governance systems can support these businesses. There is always this hindrance between these entrepreneurs becoming a formal business because of the certain fear or challenges that can come up with with the taxation systems as well, the local taxation systems as well. And another aspect is how can there be a good contract? This whole topic comes up when a city or a utility has to create a contract for hiring a certain private operator into this into this working scenario. And here we discussed a little bit on how does PPPs work and how can PPPs be really practiced in the case of emptying transportation sector. A certain learning that we've got is that especially from one of the researchers at the HCU itself, is that open participation should be carried out instead of traditional PPPs. What it really means is there is a lot of diversity in the sector, not diversity in terms of how these businesses work, what are the different factors that influence getting these businesses to make the revenue that they're currently making. And this is often very different from what traditionally PPPs mean in terms of other sectors like road construction or any other aspects where often PPPs are in place. So these diversity, these challenges that are existing in the sector needs to be accounted for, and there should be the whole PPP concept itself needs to be adopted while bringing it into the sanitation sector. There is another point, which is again talking about how fee structures can be set up. This again comes from our interactions with our colleagues in India, working with Blue Water Company, as well as also from Border. There's the concept of volumetric or fixed fee. So there could be two different kinds of fee structures that they have experienced over there. Both has its own advantages and disadvantages. They need to identify what kind of fee structures can really be working in this case, and adopt a system which is applicable in that in the city or the context that you're working with. In addition, when we talk about inclusion, when we talk about making sure that every single household is connected to the treatment plant, we see that there is always a difference between how low-income households or low-income areas do not get the service that is needed to make sure that the sludge reaches from there to the treatment plant. And there are discussions on what kind of subsidies can really work. Again, this is a contextual, the answer to it is very contextual, but at the same time, whether it is a direct subsidy towards the service that is provided in that area, or a cross subsidy by making sure that the high cost areas sort of pays more, we need to identify what fits well. Often the high cost areas are observed to be the ones which are easier to serve because of wider roads or easier accessibility, and low income areas, they are also often called as the high cost areas because the accessibility is limited, the access to through road as well as access to the septic tanks itself. Okay, yeah. The next point, which talks about regulations. Here, in every city that we work with, often we see that in the case of FSM, we always start with a case where regulations are either not there or not enough. And regulations across the value chain is not just about emptying itself, but rather the design of the on-site sanitation systems, or how it is constructed, or even treatment and all the other aspects. So in general, the regulations must be built so that they're enabling in nature, which means understanding what is the current situation. And there is always this tendency to set up high standards by setting up highly restrictive regulations. And this, even though this seems to be a certain advantage for the city to reach into a jump from no sanitation to a much better situation, because a lot of these factors are controlled by how effective these systems are, or how cost effective these are, or how expensive these are, all of these factors comes up. So regulations must be made in such a way that they are accessible and enabling. So of course, we should control the unsafe practices, but at the same time, the alternatives should be made in such a way that the service providers who are currently practicing activities, for example, manual emptying, they should be given enough opportunity, given enough time and resources so that they can still provide these services in a better, safer way. Overall, an increase in transparency and accountability across this value chain, across the different activities that the emptying and transportation sector goes through is very much important to make it enabling. A very important factor is how the ease of operations can change. So no matter where we are, the operations cost have to be kept low, mainly because at the end of the day, these operation costs gets transferred onto the households, and if they cannot pay it, the whole system, I mean, the emptying practice at all will not happen. Meaning, we have to look at where do we place the FSTP. We need to find either a reduced distance or rather optimized distance, meaning understanding where exactly are the points where sludge is being emptied, and then understanding the travel distances, travel time, and then locating the FSTPs in a place where the businesses can function without losing a lot of time in practices which are cost intensive. We also talked often about the concepts of having an app and call center for coordination of services. We have colleagues from Dakar here as well. There has been some experience which has come out of their work with using this app named Mavidanj. And these sort of IT-enabled tools have helped in improving certain the service coordination activities. Dakar is just an example. There are other areas where similar initiatives have come up. In certain areas, this has been mainly focused on collecting data. In certain locations, this has been mainly focused on coordinating the services. So where is the demand, who is a service provider who can reach there. So both of them have got their place, but at the same time, the service coordination would be one of the main factors that we need to work on while bringing IT into the systems. There is a large discussion which is going on in terms of scheduled emptying or on-demand emptying or grouped emptying, like which should be the best approach or which should be the appropriate approach in this case. Like no matter which approach we choose, we need an exhaustive data to provide these services. This is quite clear, and learning from the experience or comments from Indian colleagues was rather not to take like a quantum jump from on-demand services to scheduled services. We would rather look for, they would prefer to go through this a grouped approach where a certain part of the town can be, where scheduled services can be easily set up first, and then go on adding more and more areas of the town where such services can be come up. Also, we learned a lot from the experience from other countries. I'm collecting here some experience which I actually got to know through one of the other webinars. That is the experience from Edathoot. So the whole story of how scheduled emptying has been placed in Malaysia. If you all have missed it, there is actually a recent webinar from which is organized by CSC, where this experience was explained in detail by Mr. Dorai Narayana. And there were also certain other experiences which we got to learn from SNV in Indonesia, where they tried to, there was a test and trial to run scheduled services, and because of certain aspects, it was completely not possible, or the whole result of changing from on-demand to schedule was almost a failure, I would say. And if we look at both of this, the main observation is that how the city or the government has already set up the revenue collection streams, how it has been accepted in these areas in terms of whether it's a monthly tariff or whether it is a service, whether it's payment when the service is done. This had a major impact. So when there is a tariff system where the money is already collected and then the scheduled emptying comes or the group emptying comes afterwards, this usually there has been certain success on this. And when you have to pay when the service is done, then pretty much the scheduled emptying process does or has not worked. And from the experience from Underwater, we also saw that this came also with a certain amount of privatization. So the emptying service providers were given certain kind of service contracts, and they were doing the activity, and the utility could stay as a monitoring entity or a facilitating entity. In general, in all of these aspects, centralization of data and use of these data to analyze and understand the city is very much important. And another factor which we should not miss out, from place to place, we have aging or unreliable equipment which is being used by these service providers. So having access to better equipment and training to use them is also very key in achieving these or fulfilling these gaps. We've seen different synergies with other sectors. For example, the FSM and solid waste management sector, there are certain synergies that can be found, identified, and utilized from place to place. We've seen certain synergies with the climate change and resilience related aspects. With certain positives and negatives, we can always discuss on whether it is really possible or whether it is really advantageous to make use of them. We've also seen that when there is an opportunity to get the operators to do also not just the collection and emptying part, but rather also involve them in the value chain in a larger aspect. So there are certain areas where the MTAs have formed groups, and then they've shown acceptance to take up responsibilities. For example, running the treatment plant or even training certain aspects together. So there is a lot to learn from PASA in this case as well. So yeah, overall, the last component for the whole FSM should not be the treatment plant. So when we are building a FSTP in a town, or when you're building the FSM in a sector, there is a tendency to, even though in the value chain there is a reuse, there's a tendency to stick to the FSTP and hope that the reuse component sort of works on its way. But when planning is done, when systems are put in place, the connecting link from treatment plant to the reuse should be established in a stronger way. Last but not least, we've seen or we've learned about different experiences from different parts of the world. But overall, this sector needs to be integrated into the planning process itself. So I mean, I even have personal experiences where when we start a planning process, we've had lots of difficulties to integrate the emptying and transportation sector, even though they are the ones who are serving the cities in the day-to-day activities. So to make sure that they have the capacities to come into these planning discussions, and to make our planning processes rather a welcoming approach towards these emptying and transportation service providers, so that decisions that are made in terms of what is the tariff structure, where do we put the treatment plant, and all of these are made along with them, and they are also part of the decision, so that they can do their services in a better or in an easy way. So there needs to be capacity building. At the same time, there need to be a welcoming approach from our side when we do the planning process as well. There are several of work that we've been doing. I mean, I can list down a few from what the three organizations hosting the session has been doing, but there is much more than that that's going on in the sector. A lot of you are working on these, I know, and I would definitely like to make use of this meeting as well as our skills and resources together to solve these challenges. We definitely invite all the organizations to work with all of us. I mean, it's not just from board, it's also from the Hafencity University as well as PASA. We're inviting you all to work with us in addressing these challenges together. We have a short interactive session afterwards in this meeting itself, and we could discuss on what are our low-hanging fruits and what do we need to do in achieving these or filling these gaps. So with that, I would like to hand over back to Tim to continue on the rest of the sessions. Thank you very much for this short listening to me.
Yeah, thank you, Ajith, a lot for this good summary. And as you see, there are many topics to work on, and that's why we also invite everyone to participate, collaborate. As Ajith mentioned, we are working on some of the aspects, but of course not on all of them. I see also very actively the chat being used. Partly we can respond to it. For sure, we will share the recording, we'll share the PPTs, and we will have some more discussion later on. So for sure, there will be the opportunity to also address your questions. For now, I would like to hand over to Peter Khamisi from PASA to give us some more input from your side. Peter, are you there?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well. Karibu.
How are you, everyone?
I will just answer for everyone. We are very fine. Okay.
Thank you very much. Now, Ajith has really covered so much of what concerns us at PASA, but I will go ahead and give my insights on where we are and what we intend to do moving forward. But I will start by giving a small preview about why PASA is here and why it is timely for actually PASA to be very much involved into this conversation of sanitation. Now, the Pan-African Actors Association is the brainchild of the Africa Private MTS Union. Basically, what I'm talking about is that the Pan-African, the MTS Union gave birth to the Pan-African Sanitation Actors. And that was in Bamako in 2018 during the Alpha Congress. And then in February 2019, Cape Town, the Pan-African Sanitation Actors was officially launched during the FSM5 AfriSan. And the mission was to create a platform for knowledge sharing among MTRs across African cities and better and affordable sanitation service delivery. So what were the objectives for the formation of PASA, so that now we can understand whether we have achieved some of those objectives based on what we are doing currently and what we intend to be doing in the near future. Now, when PASA was founded, it had some objectives and statutes. And it was formed to ensure that there's coordinated action for acquisition and improvement of knowledge of its members on matters emptying, sanitation, administrative and economic development of the MTR. It was meant to create a platform of collaboration between various associations working in emptying and sanitation, on the other hand, across the value chain. It was also formed to facilitate collaboration between authorities, emptying actors, partners keen to make contribution to improving and living environment of the population through sanitation projects, and also to find the necessary means to strengthen the level of equipment, basically the technology of emptying, the capacity of the emptier to do the work, and earn good money from their job. It was also formed to encourage exchange programs between the different emptiers across the African continent to ensure that there is compliance with the environmental and public health standards for the benefit of all. And it was also meant to promote emptying that is aligned to SDGs. Last but not least, it was meant to promote cooperation of actions and exchanges in the field of training and the fecal sludge market. So now, what have we done so far and what are we intent on doing moving forward? So far, we have had programs on a city fecal sludge treatment, which we collected signatures from the different countries to petition the different governments through AMCAO, so that every city has a treatment plant owned by the associations, the different associations, partly as a way of sustainable emptying services, secondly, as a basis for revenue generation by the associations in the different countries, and partly as a way of enabling training facilities for emptying in the different countries. So we are still working on the aspect of a city treatment plant, which is an ongoing program that is being facilitated by the Africa Water Association and the African Council of Ministers of Water. That is one of the activities we are involved in. The other activities we have been involved in through collaboration, especially with AMCAO, no, not with AMCAO, with the Coast and Bill and Melinda Gates, is we are involved in capacity development programs that are also ongoing. A few weeks ago, we had a meeting of the same, and those capacity development programs have started in the different African countries that are members of the Pan-African Sanitation Actors. Another issue that we are having to deal with is how to make sure that the distance between the emptying sites, especially in informal settlements, is dealt with. Is that now we have manholes along the sewerage systems. We are having manholes where the emptiers can easily, without having to go to the treatment plant, can easily discharge the fecal sludge to avoid the long distances covered, and then they can even recoup more resources because now they don't have to travel very far. That we are doing. In the informal settlements, like for example here in Nairobi, we have had to do septic tanks in the informal settlement areas where now there are collection points for fecal sludge. So that the manual emptiers can bring their fecal there, and once they drop it there, the trucks can easily come and collect. So they don't need to carry the fecal matter for long distances on carts, leading to spillages and stuff like that, that informs bad hygiene within the emptying space. So that we are doing, and we are progressing on very well. The other thing we are addressing within the emptying space is we are now building health houses. You know that emptying has had serious health concerns, especially because now the emptiers go home and they take home the pathogens that they get from the fecal matter. So now what we are doing, and we are encouraging our other African country members to at least have a health house within either a treatment space or near where people are doing the emptying. Now, the health house is supposed to be equipped with enough water, with enough soap, where, of course, some safe rooms where the emptiers can change, can shower, and now go home in a clean environment without going home with pathogens that they have collected from the fecal matter. That we are working on. Not to forget the stakeholders, because now government has to be mainstreamed. The government has to realize that the emptying space, the emptying business is good for the environment, is good for government, is good for sustainability. So now in Kenya, and across the world, the African countries, we are mainstreaming government into sanitation activities, because initially governments were only aligned to water, and sanitation was left to private actors. Now we are talking to government, now we're having a conversation, and government is listening to us, and they are ready to open up those places where we didn't have access, create the necessary infrastructure, so that now we can do the business of emptying in a very, very conducive environment. We have started programs across the different African countries for capacity building. We need to build capacity for the emptiers. We need to give them knowledge on how to do emptying as a viable business. We are encouraging them to approach banks in a structured way, so that now they can do genuine business that can be supported through the financial institutions. We are doing that. We are working on self-regulation. We need the emptiers. Of course, now it's not really about emptying. It's basically about the whole value chain. We need to have self-regulation. And so along the way, we have been participating in the African Policy Sanitation Guidelines. The AMCAO Secretariat has been going across all African countries, collecting getting views of the different country guidelines and aligning them to the African policy guidelines, so that now each African country has a uniform policy guidelines supporting their actions in terms of sanitation, in terms of the business of sanitation, and moving forward. Another thing that we are doing is we are working on the operational health for the emptiers, especially within the space of the PPE, and to make sure that the emptier is doing clean business. And so we are looking for resources for acquiring PPEs for emptiers, because as you are very aware right now, the issue of COVID has really eaten into the resources of the emptier. People are no longer paying. So we have to find ways of sustaining the business of emptying, so that they do it in a clean and sustainable environment. So then how can we build better? While we keep our businesses running, while we do the right things? That is the conversation we all need to be having as we reflect on the gaps and challenges that are existing, because all these things are pegged on availability of resources, availability of technology, sustainable technology, and a legal framework that will make it safer to do emptying. Maybe just to mention something about the IT of things. We are also working on the IT of things. For example, if I talk about Kampala, Kampala have a very nice call center that has been, the Kampala City Authority has a call center that is supporting the private employees. So now that reduces issues of open defecation, of illegal emptying. You can even track the trucks up to the emptying sites. That is where we need to go. And most of the African countries who are members of PASA are being encouraged to go the IT of things way. And as PASA, we are also calling on partners to support us to even do system strengthening, because even PASA as an organization needs system strengthening. We need to set up a working secretariat, which we don't really have. And we will be looking for support from stakeholders in respect of that. So therefore, what actions do we need to take? We need to recover from the pandemic with concrete vision and sustainable sanitation practices. And my prayer is, and my prayer for PASA and stakeholders, kindly support us achieve those objectives. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter. I think there are many questions going around up and down, and I think that we would like to keep you also in, Peter, but also Sandrine, Mamadou, you might be following also the chat conversation and seeing that there are questions, for example, in relation to the call center or the app, if this is functional, if you have experiences. However, at this point, I would like to hand over to Stefan Reuter, who has been very active in the background, translating and also responding to the chat. Stefan, are you there? Yes, I can see you.
Yes,
well,
I'm
welcome.
here, and I'm excited about the fantastic exchange we're having. And Tim, am I getting you right that this is the time for a conversation? And please tell me, how much time would you accord for this dialogue with everyone?
We still have about 30 minutes for the dialogue.
And some wrap up. Okay.
Yes.
So here we go. Merci tout le monde pour assister à cette séance tellement importante. J'ai essayé de vous partager quelques traductions très rapides. Les informations de PASA, je ne les ai pas toutes traduites. Sandrine, tu fais partie de l'association à part. Donc, si vous avez des questions spécialement, j'ai partagé le contact de Peter Khamisi. I have just shared the contact to Peter. I did not translate all the details of Peter's input, but thank you very much, Peter. And I have shared your direct contact. We will also make available presentations after this chat. So I would like to invite all of us to now engage in a dialogue, in a conversation. And let me take first some of the questions which have been shared in the chat. And I think some of the answers have been provided. I would like to start with a question which came from Kate Ziwa, and that was regarding the app, which you have also presented, Ajith, which is called My Vidange, the app of which is used in Dakar, Senegal. And if someone from PASA, maybe Sandrine, could answer whether this app is available only for the city of Dakar or whether it is used beyond, even nationally. Il y a une question concernant l'application My Vidange pour Dakar, et il y a la question, est-ce qu'elle est applicable seulement pour la ville de Dakar ou bien pour tout l'État du Sénégal? Can I have a feedback from, yes, Ajith, you would like to?
I just want to point out Mamadou is also here, so he could definitely answer that question.
Mamadou, pourquoi pas? Si tu m'entends et si tu peux utiliser le microphone, s'il te plaît, n'hésite pas à parvenir là avec la réponse.
Oui, bonjour. Je me disais que vous avez confondu Cameroun et Sénégal pour interpeller Sandrine.
Apologies, I was confusing Cameroun and Sénégal. Je vous demande de corriger, s'il vous plaît, Mamadou.
C'était pour vous taquiner seulement.
Donc, l'application My Vidange, c'est pour la ville de Dakar ou bien pour tout le pays?
Non, c'est pour tout le pays. C'est pour tout le pays, c'est pour tous les vidangeurs du pays qui seront géolocalisés. Et l'important, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, cette application-là peut permettre à, par exemple, un Sénégalais qui a une maison, par exemple, dans un quartier de Dakar ou de Thiès ou de Tivaouane, et qui loge aux États-Unis, de commander une vidange et de le payer en ligne. Voilà, donc c'est une...
Mais est-ce que les services, est-ce que les vidangeurs utilisent cette application aussi au-delà de Dakar? Est-ce qu'il y a des vidangeurs qu'on peut appeler pour d'autres villes au Sénégal?
Oui, aujourd'hui, en fait, on est dans la phase bêta de cette application. Ce n'est pas encore très fonctionnel. Ils sont en train de préparer tout ça. Ils sont dans la phase de géolocalisation. Mais en fait, l'idée, c'est de faire en sorte que tous les vidangeurs qui se trouvent au Sénégal, toutes les vidanges soient concentrées sur cette application MyVidange. Et aussi, voilà. Et l'importance aussi, c'est d'essayer de centraliser, de mutualiser tout, en fait, l'argent que récupèrent les vidangeurs. On va créer un système de paiement qui va centraliser tous les paiements. Donc, aujourd'hui, les vidangeurs, 25 000, là, on aura dans la journée peut-être des opérations qui vont tourner autour de quelques millions et dans l'année autour de quelques milliards. Et ça constitue encore une garantie supplémentaire pour financer un peu tout ce que l'on veut sur la...
OK. Babadou, je vais tenter de traduire. Merci pour la réponse compréhensive. Let me just translate also for you, Kate, and everyone. So the app, which is called MyVidange, is actually available for everyone. So somebody who's living in the United States, for example, could ask and use that app to ask for his pit being emptied or of his relatives somewhere in and around Dakar. Currently, the app is also expanding, and a beta mode is underway to include not only the logistical connection between the pit emptier and also the one who wants his pit to be emptied. Please, everyone, mute the microphone. So we have some. Thank you. So it will include a possibility to process payments as well. So if you have further questions on the development of that app, please contact the colleagues from PASA. Thank you very much. Are there any additional questions regarding this one, MyVidange, the app? Or is there something in addition? Otherwise, I would like to proceed with the next question. We have Duru Nicodemus from Nigeria. He's following us from a car, as I can see. Duru, you are live right now, and he's asking us, please, how can NGOs secure funds to establish treatment plant? Because 90% of sludge in Nigeria ends up in water bodies and landfills. Government treatment plants are not enough and inactive, if not dead. So, Duro, finance is, of course, what brings us also together here, but mainly we are focusing on technical options and exchange on what works, so that we make sure that once an investment is done, it will be done in a sustainable way. But is anyone, for example, Peter from PASA, would you like to maybe share a few points, as you also were calling for resources and how can funds be made available? If anybody else want to join, please raise your hand on this point, and I ask Tim and Ajith to assist if I am overlooking somebody who's raising the hand. So Peter, I'm calling on you just with a quick translation. Il y a une question de notre collègue Duru du Nigeria qui demande comment est-ce que les ONG peuvent accéder les moyens pour établir et réaliser des stations de traitement de boues de vidange. J'ai averti tout le monde que nous sommes dans une discussion plutôt technique, mais bien sûr, c'est quelque chose qui nous occupe tous. Peter, please, do you have a quick feedback for Duru?
Stefan, are you there?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, now I can see Duru Nicodemus there. And you know, Duru, let me tell you, AMCAO is in your country. The African Council of Ministers of Water and Sanitation are there next to you there in Nigeria. And I think that's where we should start this conversation. You know, we petitioned them. We petitioned the governments through AMCAO, a city, a treatment plant. And I believe that is what that is the conversation because government should also take initiative because this is.
Okay. We are losing you. Peter, please continue without video, maybe. Your connection was a bit more stable. So, Duru, actually, this is an ongoing process. Beside AMCAO, we do have the African Water Facility from the African Development Bank and a number. I'm sure you are aware about those. So, Peter, can you hear us? Please, would you like to continue? I just stepped in while we lost your sound.
Yes, so sorry, you know, I told you my video is bad.
No
so I was telling Nicodemus that we as Pan-African Sanitation actors that petition government through AMCAO because that is the body mandated to deal with these issues of water and sanitation. It's a council of ministers, but individual associations need to be working to make sure that they have partnerships that can facilitate them have those treatment plants. Just like we have petitioned AMCAO, and we shall be having, by the way, we shall be having treatment plants across the different member countries that are affiliated to the Pan-African Sanitation Actors, which is a process that is ongoing and which actually capacity building initiatives are going on towards that achieving that objective. So Duru Nicodemus kindly join the Pan-African Sanitation Actors so we can have this conversation together and so we can mobilize the resources across Africa so that every African country is covered within that space. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much. And I see Mamadou Ndiour, you are raising your hand. Mamadou, est-ce que tu demandes la parole à ce point-là?
Oui. En fait, je veux compléter un peu, Peter. Parce
oui, vas-y.
Aujourd'hui, le problème qui existe par rapport aux stations de traitement de boues de vidange, c'est que dans tous les pays, c'est l'État ou la municipalité qui ont le droit de construire ces stations. Le privé, institutionnellement, le privé, on ne permet pas au privé. Nous, aujourd'hui, le combat que nous sommes en train de mener, une ville, une station, et comme l'a si bien expliqué Peter, avec les pétitions que nous sommes en train d'envoyer dans plusieurs institutions, c'est aujourd'hui de permettre au privé de construire et d'exploiter ces stations-là. Et on est en train de réfléchir sur un modèle où le privé, en PPP avec l'État, peut construire et exploiter. Aujourd'hui, au Sénégal déjà, le privé commence à exploiter. Il y a une délégation de services où 11 stations sont gérées par un privé sénégalais qui est constitué de deux sociétés de vidangeurs, des professionnels du secteur qui ont constitué une société d'élevage et qui gèrent aujourd'hui des stations. Au Niger, c'est la même chose aussi. Au Niger, des vidangeurs sont en train de gérer la grande station de Niamey, etc. Donc, le combat, c'est arriver à faire de sorte que les vidangeurs, les entreprises privées puissent construire et exploiter ces stations-là.
D'accord, merci beaucoup, Mamadou. Nduru, here comes your feedback from Senegal, and this is another invite for you to join the Pan-African Sanitation Actors. The point here is that, in principle, as you may be aware, the implementation of the right to sanitation is public duty. So it's either the national government or the regional government. You mentioned also the state government. So it is very hard for private sector, whether it's non-government, whether it's NGOs, civil society, or whether it's private companies, to enter into this game. And this is how Mamadou linked the PASA campaign, One City, One Treatment Plant, is a means to also enter into the dialogue with municipalities and with national government, regional government, to find a regulatory enabling environment for non-state actors also to enter into an agreement to be mandated and also to be accountable for operating treatment plants. So the question for where are the means to construct goes not only to the money, but also to the regulatory environment. Mamadou referred to your neighboring country, Niger. The capital city, Niamey, has a treatment plant which is operated under such an agreement by non-state actors, by private operators. So I think there's more to dig in by contacting and getting in touch with PASA. So thank you very much. I would like to leave it with that point. Thank you for coming up with the question. Please stay active in our group, Duru. And we're looking forward to also then learn from your new insight. Nigeria is the most important populated country. So there's lots to learn, lots to catch up, and maybe you were going to innovate. So we have had a question before from Aparna regarding the question of scheduled emptying. There's been quite some exchange on the chat on that one. And I would like to invite Ajith maybe to quickly give your feedback, which you also shared in the chat regarding the question on scheduled emptying. And maybe there are some questions or comments from yourself, Aparna, on this point. But yeah, handing over to you, Ajith, maybe to quickly address Aparna's question.
Thank you. So quickly, talking about what the question was, she was asking whether there are more examples in terms of databases and existing data on the containment systems. And she mentioned the case of SuSanA. If you look at the work from SEPT and a few other organizations, there's quite a lot of work in terms of setting up databases as well as really enforcing this idea of making sure that every single household, like sludge from every single household, is collected. It's a good case study to go through, and I'm sure you can find it online. And maybe if there are colleagues from SEPT in this meeting, they can also mention and talk about that experience. At the same time, what I responded regarding if there are other examples from India where such activities has been done. I know there are colleagues from IIHS in this call, so I know from my understanding from the TNUSST project, there has been efforts in setting up an online system for collecting data on ongoing desludging activities. So I think there are experiences from there to learn as well. I also mentioned the data collection, which I got to know from Snehit, who was there in our previous discussions, that they're from the Blue Water Company's point of view, they're doing the tracking on a regular basis, meaning there is also a certain amount of data collection on desludging activities that they are done. So I think in general, the collection of data across different cities is not following a single standard process, but everywhere the processes are different. So this is why I would not say that there is an exact replica of or exact similar example of SuSanA that we can come up with. But there is definitely more to learn from different cities where similar activities are doing. I'm open for further conversation with Aparna or the other colleagues. Thank you.
Yeah, who would like to add to this point of scheduled emptying? Let me maybe repeat that. Of course, there are two possibilities of ensuring that every pit is emptied, whether it's on call, like through a tool like was mentioned from Dakar, My Vidange. Whenever your pit is full, you call, and then you make sure that through an process, you get the cheapest offer from somebody who's close to you. The other way is that a city may see that although there is this possibility of by call emptying, too much sludge doesn't reach the treatment plant, and therefore a scheduled or regular annually every third year, every second year will be planned for. And there are pros and cons. It's not one is better than the other, but it depends on a number of issues when to go for scheduled emptying. And there was also experience from Malaysia, which was mentioned earlier, which they have been running with the scheduled emptying process. After some time, the national regulation was opened up to go for a by call, and at some point they went back to scheduled emptying. So there's lots of learning, and I suggest that we can address this point or continue this dialogue also beyond and make some more recent learnings on that one available. This is it, I would suggest, regarding this question on scheduled emptying. Or is Aparna or anyone else keen to just add or ask another point? Tim, you have raised your hand. Yeah,
yes,
please.
I would like to add to that one. There's also the third option, which we also started to discuss actually, with the grouped emptying, which goes in between. So because for the scheduled emptying, you need all the data available, and it requires quite some management. And the grouped emptying has the idea of, for example, in Dar es Salaam, it is being practiced by Dawasa, tested, piloted, that certain local government authorities, for example, have to check their on the ward level or on a local administrative level, have to check how full the pits are, and before it gets to the level that it's really overflowing, they contact the water utility, and they can then plan the emptying, and it's kind of a schedule, but not a schedule on every year, but at least with some advance, they can then know, okay, within this certain area of the town, we have 10 pits to be emptied, and then they can allocate the resources for that and provide services for a reduced price. So that goes more with less management and less data required, and is kind of a interim solution, which we can see now. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tim. Very important point. Don't rely if someone says either or. Think of whether there might be a third way, and grouped emptying is a very important thing to understand. And if there are more facts on that, Tim, maybe we can share it also after the session on the SuSanA platform. I have been grabbing these 3 questions from the chat, and I would like to open up now if there are any additional interventions. Somebody is keen to come up with an additional question. Before inviting and waiting for your hands to be raised, I would like to repeat that we are keen on finding ways how the fast learning, which is required if we want to achieve sanitation for all, how the fast learning and exchange can be fueled, and who has to contribute either financial resources, as was requested before, or technical resources. I think this is very important now. The exchange on what works, what does not work, needs to be supported. PASA needs to be heard. Private sector actors need to be listened to, not only NGOs or not only scientific institutions, but again, it's not either or. We need to come together. Here's a platform for that. So who would like to raise the hand and have some additional points which we may have missed or where we were not clear? I can see that Antonio is starting to get connected to his audio signal, or anyone else. Yeah, Aparna, while we wait for a sound, maybe from someone, you have been adding to everyone, the reason for asking the question was the creation of such database is very difficult. Maybe you would quickly explain, Aparna, the mic is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
So why I was saying this is a lot of urban local bodies will have a very difficult time creating these databases, and databases are the first requirement if we want to move into, say, scheduled emptying or any kind of to provide this as a service from the municipality or the municipal local body. So in India, a lot of local bodies do not have these resources, whether it might be knowledge resources, it might be financial, it might be human resources. So I just wanted to know if there were available case studies, good case studies that we could refer to.
Okay, Ajith is raising the hand, but just to echo on your point, Aparna, I think the whole SDG 6, not only 6.2, but 6.3 wastewater is suffering from the fact that we are ignorant of the dimension of the problem. We have, through the UNICEF and WHO household surveys, some information on the household which don't have access to safely managed sanitation. But the wastewater doesn't, or the fecal sludge does not come only from households. So a database is something which we need to build up as we go. Ajith, over to you.
Yeah, I just want to repeat a little bit from what we talked about, the experience from Malaysia, the underwater consortiums. The story that they have to say, moving from on-demand emptying to fully functional sort of scheduled emptying. The process itself, it took about 15 years or so, 15 to 20 years. So there was initially this change from on-demand to scheduled, which was run completely by the government, and then to include the private operators, it was switched back to on-demand, and there they saw again. So it took time to reach a stage where there is a good amount of connectivity towards the system, and then after they went back to on-demand, it declined, and then again to come back to the stage where scheduled was done. All of this involved quite a lot of time and resources. And often when we talk about, okay, we need to shift to scheduled emptying, I think we're not understanding the amount of resources, or we're not appreciating how much we really need to reach there. And the example one of our colleagues from SNV told us in the last meeting was the effort to change from on-demand to scheduled was done quite quickly over there, and the experience that they received was mainly because of this fact that there is no existing revenue chains, and just because of that, when they try to change it over a short period of time, everything was completely a big failure. So if you want to avoid those scenarios, we need to take the long route. We need to take the time and effort that is needed for getting there. So I'm not sure, I don't think there's an easy way out of this question of resources.
Very good. I see Mamadou Ndior having raised the hand. Mamadou, est-ce que tu veux, qu'est-ce que tu as à proposer pour notre discussion?
Oui, je voudrais partager quelques expériences qui se passent aujourd'hui à Dakar, notamment en ce qui concerne la chaîne de valeur de l'assainissement, parce qu'aujourd'hui, comme on a dit, pour réussir l'assainissement autonome, il faut mettre une filière de boue de vénal marchande. Et pour cela, je crois qu'il faut des technologies de traitement pour créer des sous-produits innovants au niveau des stations de traitement de boue de vidange. Aujourd'hui, à Dakar, dans la station de Tuanpel, 2 expériences sont là-bas. L'omniprocesseur, aujourd'hui, qui est en train de produire de l'eau distillée, avec qui on va faire de l'eau de refroidissement. Il est en train de sortir une cendre qui aujourd'hui peut être dans les BTP comme des briques. Et aussi, il produit de l'électricité pour faire fonctionner les stations d'épuration. Et donc, il y a une autre expérimentation qui vient des États-Unis qui s'appelle Omni Ingester et qui concerne le traitement des fosses septiques avec un camion aujourd'hui qui peut traiter les eaux et puis voilà, réutiliser l'eau et amener uniquement les boues au niveau de la station. L'autre expérience que je voulais parler, c'est aujourd'hui avec la Fondation Bill et Melinda Gates, la banque BNDE, l'USAID, et les associations des acteurs de l'assainissement. Aujourd'hui, on est dans le processus de monter les camions de vidange à Dakar. Et aujourd'hui, il y a un prototype qui est en train d'être fait en Inde. Et après, ce prototype sera à Dakar, on va le tester. Aujourd'hui, on a 2 milliards CFA pour financer 40 camions. Et ça, ce seront les premiers camions de vidange montés en Afrique. Et toutes ces expériences-là, aujourd'hui, APA est en train de travailler sur ça pour le partager avec les autres pays. Donc, l'information, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, l'initiative Une ville station est en train d'être labellisée au niveau du Forum mondial de l'eau. Donc, tout ça, c'est des programmes aujourd'hui qui se passent à Dakar et qui concernent aussi un peu les objectifs de passage. Merci.
Le dernier point, je n'ai pas bien entendu. Qu'est-ce qui sera labellisé pendant le Forum mondial à Dakar?
Parce qu'aujourd'hui, durant le Forum mondial de l'eau, plusieurs initiatives, sont en train d'être labellisées. Même MyVidange aujourd'hui est en train d'être labellisé au niveau du Forum mondial de l'eau.
Et labellisé, qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? Certifié ou bien formalisé?
Oui, labellisé, ce sont des projets qui seront validés.
Ah, validé, ok.
Et qui va permettre à ces initiatives d'être présentées aux partenaires techniques et financiers, etc. Voilà.
Okay, merci, Mamadou. Peter, you have also been raising your hands. Would you like to step in and translate in my place? Do you have already got the messages from Mamadou, or is it something additional and I will quickly translate?
No, it is something, I just wanted to add something, especially to address Duru and some other African member countries that are not.
Peter, just 1 second. You will have the word. We have 6 minutes to go until this chat closes. So I will translate the points from Mamadou. You will have some points which you are going to share. And then I would like to invite us to proceed to the closing. It's true we started 10 minutes late, so we may be going for 10 minutes longer. But let me quickly translate the points from Mamadou. He wanted to share the experience from Dakar. And there are several aspects to it. I will start with the technologies which he wanted to share. And that is point 1, the Omni processor, which is operating in Dakar, which is processing fecal sludge from pit emptying trucks. The water which is recycled is used for cooling purposes. Electricity is produced, and even the ashes from the combustion process are used for the construction industry bricks production. There's another technology which is called the Omni ingesters for pit emptying, and I'm going to take up this pit emptying or Omni ingester a little bit later, because we do want to undertake some additional work on pit emptying and share that in our group. The other part which he was referring to is that in Africa, in collaboration with PASA, there's going to be the establishment of developing emptying trucks as such, because emptying trucks mainly come secondhand, used, old from Europe, and they want to establish these new assembly of emptying trucks in Africa. There's a first budget available to set up 40 trucks. Some pilots are also taking place in India on that one. And the last one was that validation of some of the new technologies or tools like the MyVidange are going to formally be hosted during the World Water Forum in Dakar, Senegal. So that was a small advertisement. Please don't forget the World Water Forum in Dakar and expect some new information there. Okay, I can see also, Sandrine, je vais te donner la parole juste après Peter, ou bien est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose que tu aimerais ajouter au point de Mamadou? Un peu plus fort, Sandrine, on ne peut pas rater ce que tu as partagé. Un peu plus fort, s'il te plaît.
Voilà, je parle dans la même lignée du partage d'expérience avec Mamadou. Parler de l'expérience en termes d'acquisition de stations de traitement de boues de vidange. Donc, les 4 fonctionnent, nous allons inaugurer notre première station. C'est un événement que nous tenons à partager avec le monde. Vu que le projet Une station que la PA est en train de mettre a amené une nouvelle dynamique au niveau du Cameroun. Au niveau de la Fédération camerounaise des assainisseurs, par exemple, nous travaillons à rassembler tous les du Cameroun afin de recenser les villes. Il est indispensable d'implanter les stations. Donc, c'est un projet que nous portons vraiment à cœur et que nous souhaitons, avec l'accompagnement de tous, de la part le Cameroun aussi est dans cette mouvance-là. Il est important. Ce plaidoyer qui est mis sur la table du monde aujourd'hui est un plaidoyer vital pour les pays d'Afrique. Il faut que chaque pays membre puisse avoir des stations de traitement afin d'assurer la rentabilité du secteur.
D'accord. Merci beaucoup, Sandrine. And here's a message from Cameroon. Sandrine is also part of PASA. Working for the association, and she just wanted to add, according to what I understood, that the initiative One City, One Treatment Plant is bringing new dynamics to also Cameroon, so that all of you who are looking for what can be triggering action and transformation, please connect to reach out to PASA and how this movement of the call for one city, one treatment plant can trigger action and collaboration between state actors and private sector actors and civil society actors. I still have Peter in the line, and Peter, the floor is yours right now. I can see your raised hand, Mamadou, but it's Peter's time right now. Peter.
Very much now.
Yes.
I wanted to address the issue of mobilization, and I wanted Duru, Nicodemus, and others here to know that the program that was started to mobilize African different African countries to organize them for sanitation activities is ongoing. And we visited Tanzania. They were not mobilized. We are going back there. We shall be going to Nigeria. So Duru, we shall be meeting you because we want to rope every African country within the sanitation space, so that we are well organized and we can bargain better and we can be listened to. That is the most important thing I wanted to share with you, Duru. And so just wait for us. We shall be coming and we shall share a lot. Last but not least, Bana Stefan, I want to know where I can get that poo-poo pump we were talking about. I think there was somebody was presenting the poo-poo pump in the last meeting. because now we have a project in Kisumu in Kenya, and we want to see if we can pilot down there. Thank you.
Okay. So, le message de Peter à tout le monde concernant la mobilisation de moyens, c'est que, s'il vous plaît, n'hésitez pas à entrer en contact avec l'APA parce que l'idée est de vraiment mobiliser, aller dans chaque pays africain pour mobiliser un peu d'action et d'activité. Et l'autre point, c'était une question concernant les systèmes de vidange mécanique. I will switch to English. I will quickly come with this information that in the past meetings, and this goes back to Mamadou's information on the Omni ingester, there has been quite some activity around mechanical emptying. One pit emptying device, which was also presented and discussed during the last FSM6 conference, was the poo pump. And this is not for poo as we mainly think of, but it is a push and pull pump. So this pump will not only pull the sludge out of the pit, but push it to the truck, sludge truck, so that you can get rid of manual transporting of bins and cans. The other one is that what was called the Omni Ingester Initiative has concluded with a technical system which is called the excluder. And I would like to, the excluder is a system which excludes trash from being sucked in. So this is one of our main problems, which also is addressed by the poo-poo pump. How can we prevent that the massive amounts of trash don't overcomplicate our emptying stuff? So Working Group 10 is planning to host a 2-hour session on the topic of mechanical emptying of toilets in the coming month. I guess we will do it in September. So please stay tuned on this topic of mechanical emptying. And I would like to quickly translate this. Donc, notre groupe de travail numéro 10 prévoit d'organiser une session de 2 heures sur le thème de la vidange mécanique des fosses septiques et des toilettes. Donc, tout le monde qui est intéressé, il y a vraiment des nouveaux développements sur ce sujet. Omni Ingester, poo-poo pump et d'autres systèmes. Donc, n'hésitez pas aussi de vous contacter. Mon contact à moi est disponible sur le forum. And with this, I can see still our very active private sector partners, PASA, with their hands raised. Mamadou, est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose que tu voulais ajouter encore à ce point-là?
En fait, c'est faire un appel seulement aux potentiels partenaires techniques et financiers, parce qu'aujourd'hui, on a, PASA est en train de faire des études, sur chaque ville, dans le cadre de une station, et on voudrait que chaque pays ait un projet qu'il va présenter durant le Forum mondial de l'eau, où on va organiser une table ronde des partenaires techniques et financiers pour présenter tous ces projets-là.
Un point que je n'ai pas bien compris au début, est-ce que vous avez déjà assuré les finances pour mener ces études dans chaque ville pour les présenter donc, dans le Forum mondial? Est-ce qu'il y a les moyens déjà sécurisés?
Oui, on est en train de préparer les plans d'action pour ça.
D'accord.
Et on va partager. C'est pourquoi je lance un appel pour dire aux partenaires techniques et financiers qu'ils auront leur... voilà. Et pour demander des accompagnements, des appuis par rapport à cette grande initiative. Voilà.
Bien compris. So this is from feedback from Mamadou to take it to the next level. There is the opportunity of the World Water Forum, And the idea is to mobilize resources. And if there are any partners around listening to this call, either online or afterwards, because it's recorded, you are invited to assist PASA and other actors so that a kind of pre-feasibility technical study can be conducted on every city of the country, and whether it's Senegal or whether it's Kenya or whether it's Nigeria. And these pre-feasibility studies should be presented during the World Water Forum so that there is something to chew on, something where to orient the money, but this needs preparation. So it's also a call for financial contributions, technical expertise contribution, but it would be a fantastic opportunity to come up with a big number of pre-feasibility studies to the World Water Forum in order to say, okay, this is what is needed. Please assist us in going the next step. Okay, so Peter, again, your point, and then we have 10:37, some small conclusions from this session, which I would also like to conduct together with Tim and Ajith. But Peter, your hand is still raised. Or have you forgotten to lower your hand, maybe? And then we can conclude.
I think it was still being raised, unfortunately.
Okay, fine, Peter. So thank you very much, everyone, for this very interesting 1.5 hours. First of all, thank you very much for bearing with us with the last minute change. I think we had a fantastic participation of up to 60 participants in the peak. We will endeavor to make available not only the recording of this one, but also the presentations, as some of you have asked for, and additional information. It's true that the Working Group 10 has been not very active over the past years, but now is time for action, and we would like to initiate with this one also the call, and that's my call. If there is somebody willing, ready, and able to act as a co-host for this Working Group 10, please don't hesitate to approach the Secretariat of the Sustainable Sanitation Alliance to work as a co-host. This is, of course, maybe an interesting point for PASA, but maybe also for others. So I guess in summary, I would now like to invite Tim and Ajith for some feedback. What were the key points? Maybe you also had expected some other contributions or feedbacks, but this is what would be nice to hear from you. The call for, or the announcement that we will have a session on mechanical pit emptying, I'm also referring that message on behalf of the Practica Foundation. Xavier Grass is joining us. Xavier from Madagascar, I guess. So this is an activity which is coming up, and we really would like people who are interested in the topic, willing to come up with hard questions. We are going to set up a small working group. I can also see the hand of Nabil. Nabil, what is your question?
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. I came late, but I like to address a situation. Maybe we can have a session for that. I am calling from Libya, and we have two big problems in Libya right now related to waters. One of them is the government have been not built any water treatment plants, and there is a lake of sewage water in Alikakshar area. Some of them can reach 200 to 300 hectares. And the water also going to the seaside. The second point, we have problem lake of oil. You know, when they are cutting of the when the oil coming outside, the petroleum coming out of the they separate it, create a huge lake of oil. This oil close to the water resource. And we have two problems in Libya because there is no rivers. Mainly, we get in water from the ground.
Okay, Nabil, you are opening up a new important topic, and I'm grateful that you have used the opportunity to say, hey guys, this is what is important. Nabil, what is your position? Are you participating in this call? Are you affiliated to a governmental organization, private sector, NGO, please?
Yes, I am NOG plus private. Yes, I'm not a government.
Can you, I didn't hear your affiliation. NOG
and private sector. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, as a non-profit organization, one part, and I am also in private sector, but I'm not doing government.
So thank you for raising this point, Nabil. And I think there are, of course, two dimensions which come immediately to my mind, and this is that there are some issues which would be rather treated under humanitarian action, immediate action, and I understand the dimension and the situation Libya is under would be perfectly fitting under the issue of humanitarian action. And maybe I can, you post your point under the forum of Sustainable Sanitation Alliance, and then we can try to connect you to people who have access to budgets different to development aid, which is more long-term oriented. But thank you, and you should.
I can make a presentation if you give me some time later on. To show
let's
the problems. Yes.
Yeah, very good. Let's exchange on that in the forum, Nabil. I guess we need to find ways how to provide you feedback and orientation. With this, over to Tim and Ajith for some closing remarks. And I also saw that we have Andreas Schmidt from Urban Waters here with us, but it's up to you to invite Andreas if you would like to add some additional points. But Tim and
Yep. So thanks a lot. We also don't want to keep all of you too long here. I think, Stefan, you already said a lot to the way forward, and thanks for your participation. I think the SuSanA Working Group 10 is very good to continue with the discussion, and I'm happy for any further contributions. Just again, from our side, HCU, of course, we are continuing. We have research going on, in particular in Dar es Salaam, on how to improve the operation of FSM services and how to make them financially viable. And also for training purposes, so a master program is here at HCU in relations to resource efficiency and architecture and planning, where we also deal partly with sanitation and FSM. So very much welcome to stay in contact, and looking forward to the next meeting. Ajith, over to you.
Thank you, Tim. Before I talk about the closure, I just want to touch upon the point Nabil raised, because there's also this dimension of humanitarian action that is going on over there as well. I'm not sure how much it can be related, but I know that Alberto from Solidarity is here. There is the FSM Technical Working Group at the Global Wash Cluster, which is talking about similar issues that we've been having discussions on it, and coming up with guidelines or recommendations or actions regarding capacity building. So there's a lot of work in that direction also going on. Just wanted to mention that part. And we can definitely take up similar, or we can take up a appropriate platform for taking the discussion from Nabil forward. Having said that, thank you very much for all of you for joining us in the morning. I know we've had a little bit of trouble with the Zoom in the beginning, but you all made it here. We're happy for that. And it was a great discussion. Thank you for all your insights. And it'll be great to stay in touch with all of you. We've had a lot of discussions on all the other factors. Having said that, thank you again, and hope to stay connected on this topic, in this very important topic. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And please stay tuned to the website of SuSanA with further news and possibilities for exchange. Make use of the forum and have a good day. Thank you. Thank you to the organizers.
Yeah, thank you to Stefan.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And especially thank you to all the PASA representatives for all the good insights.
As well as SuSanA for hosting this
Yes.
session over here. We've got, I think SuSanA is still in the group, and there are other people who've been supporting in sending emails around and letting you all know about this session as well. So thank you for all the support.
Lots to do.
Thank you.
Just started.
Thank you for the essential. She's been informing, and we've learned a lot.
Greetings to Zambia.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, good. Then we can continue directly with the working group 10. Yeah, really good how many people made it into this with a short announcement. Maybe it was also a kind of reminder that the session is is going on.
Yeah, I think it was a really good turnout for the last minute link change. We did have around 70 to 80 participants in other links, but I think around 50 was a really good turnout too.
Yep.
Indeed, I think, especially, I mean, the turnout was quite good, as well as even the engaging discussions. So pretty much a lot of them were coming up with questions, and the chat was flowing all the time, I guess.
And especially because we already had this, it's now the 4th meeting. So it is not the first time that this, so there's really, still quite some demand to continue exchanging. I see this, then Stefan really as the next point to continue with the working group, where we can then discuss more in detail certain aspects. Yeah, thank you, SuSanA, for last minute changes. Yeah,
you're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Much appreciated, SuSanA. And I think it would be nice if we can also collect some of the presentations from PASA regarding the background, which would be supporting the initial words from Peter. And if we could also get some information on the campaign, One City, One Treatment Plant, I think that would be very helpful to share that on the forum website. And I mean, you will make available the recording, our chat at some point, and let's maybe schedule a meeting somewhere either later this week or early next week on how to take this forward. Any ideas on that one? We had a weekly rhythm at some point. Was it on Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah, Tim, you can close recording already, I think.
Yeah, I was also.